Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I want to give you guys the top 10, in order this time, worst design cards ever. So like a week ago, I did a video, best design cards ever, get you guys inspired, get you guys thinking about the quality of cards that we are seeing that are being revealed from the upcoming Rastakhan's Rumble expansion. Well, today I want to give you guys the absolute bottom of that. I've been, going through the interwebs, seeing what people think, seeing what I agree with, seeing what cards I wanted to add to the list. Certainly some very interesting things. Before I get started with the list, I want to specify that cards that are just kind of bad don't really qualify as cards that are not well designed. I don't think that every single card that the Hearthstone devs try to create is with the goal of being a very powerful card. Some cards just suck. Some cards you might think would be better than they are, and they are disappointing. That doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, make them badly designed cards. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think it's the cards that are overly powerful or just have some kind of effect that really not just doesn't end up being good, never really made any sense whatsoever. So that's kind of the restriction, and with that in mind, let's get started. First on my list, number 10, I have Baku. Yeah, that's right. When this card came out, it certainly looked like a very interesting card because it's like, whoa, you get to have a cool hero power. It's a deck building strategy, and generally I agree that those are some pretty fun cards, and some of them have been well designed, some not so much, and I think Baku is the worst one of those. So you can only play odd cards if you want the upgraded hero power, and while that aspect of the card is certainly interesting, it's certainly interesting to, more or less limit your selection of cards. What is not interesting is the gameplay that is provided from Baku decks. The gameplay where in a large part, your deck is reliant on your upgraded hero power and your turns are reliant on your upgraded hero power. A lot of people say that constructed feels stale. What they typically mean is Baku sucks. That's what they mean. Because this staleness comes from the overdone consistency provided by the effect. When you're losing to a paladin's upgraded hero power, not even the cards that they're really playing, that just feels like crap. It's just not really fun to play against most Baku decks. I would say Baku Warrior is a bit of an exception, but at the same time, I kind of have fun playing normal Warrior more. It's worse. So, you typically want to play what's good. I like normal Warrior more because it doesn't completely shut out some of the aggressive decks like Baku Rogue. So you actually have to manage your armor levels more so than you would in a Baku Warrior. And, you get to play all of the fun Warrior cards rather than half of them. So that's what's up. That's why he earns number 10. Number 9, Kella Seth. Really, this one doesn't require much to be said, but cards in general that give you an almost instant win condition based purely off of luck, and often, especially in this case, having a crappy early game curve, it's just ridiculous. With Kella Seth, it's not just that you basically win the game when you play it in the early game, it's that on average, your early game openers aren't even very good because of his own restrictions. So you instantly win when you play Kella Seth and lose a lot of the time when you don't play Kella Seth. And what does that have to do with playing the game? Nothing. It just happens or it doesn't. And that tends to dictate the outcomes of the games a lot of the time. Crap like that, I think, is really terrible for people to experience and play with, especially if it's something that's, part of the meta and they regularly experience. And they do. Speaking of that, Implosion makes 8th on my list. Implosion is very much that. We haven't seen the card in a while, but those that do remember this old age Hearthstone card know exactly what I'm talking about. It's very similar to Kella Seth. It's basically a card that you play in a zoo deck, right? So you play in a zoo deck, and if you're playing zoo, it's very important that you have powerful turns every single turn because you're trying to just out-tempo your opponent. You're trying to have a very wide board that's very difficult to deal with. So, you have to include Implosion because on average, it's a really good card. On average, it's deal 3 damage, get 3 1/1s. That, especially for back then, that was really good. But if you were playing Zoo and you played this card and you got 2 damage, usually not killing the thing that you hit, so like basically doing almost nothing that turn and getting 2 1/1s versus definitely killing your target, hitting 4 and getting 4 imps, the difference in the outcome of this card would often be winning versus losing the game. So what Implosion was, it was a really terribly designed RNG card, but the reason why it makes the list as opposed to many of the others which also fit that criteria is that the average power level was also ridiculously high to the point where people were forced into this game style. And that sucks. And Barnes is our next one. Oh man, does Barnes suck. He is 7th on the list. They're going to get even worse. Well, better, but worse, because we're talking about the worst cards. But Barnes absolutely earns his spot. This is the ultimate deck building card that you instantly win the game with if you get the right card from your deck. It's just absolutely asinine, where you play Barnes, you get a 1/1 like Yashiraj, and then you get another full Yashiraj, and that's it, game over. It's like turn 3 with a coin or turn 4, play like 15-15 in stats, and you're done, basically. Your opponent cannot come back from that. What's the chance you get Barnes by that time in the game? Not very high. So, well, you win or you lose, and there's really very little counterplay most of the time. Yep. Number 6 is the Rogue Quest. I had to include it just because of how polarizing it was. Yes, the quests were generally pretty well designed, pretty fun to play against, but Rogue was the ultimate in polarizing matchups. It would just get absolutely obliterated by aggressive decks, and it was, you couldn't lose against slow decks. It's just not possible to lose. That polarity goes strongly against what Hearthstone tries to maintain over the years, and it's that you want to always have a reason to keep playing the game. That's why Hearthstone is good with most of the RNG in the game, because it's like, you realize that, if I get this draw and get this random outcome, I still could possibly win. To always have a hope in the game that you're playing makes it feel good, makes it feel interesting, makes you constantly involved in what you're doing, and you never really enter that like defeatist mentality. Quest Rogue basically gets you exactly there. It is the defeatist mentality deck. And many have argued over the years that it should not exist, and I would argue they're right. Top 5, boys. 5th, Patches. You know Patches very well. I'm generally talking about Patches before he was nerfed, when he had Charge. But nonetheless, it is a terribly designed card when something pops out of your deck. Having an even further reduced deck is really crazy. Having openers with additional stats is really mind-blowing. A lot of the issues where people get frustrated in Hearthstone is where there's no counterplay. And the ultimate no counterplay side of things is the very early turns, turn 1 and turn 2. There is not much counterplay to that because, well, the game hasn't even started. What happens on turn 1? You basically looked at a set of cards, mulliganed maybe a few of them away, and drew 1 extra card. Your ability to counter a 1-drop is pure RNG, and if the same set of 1-drops is pulling Patches out of the deck every turn 1, that amount of consistency is just ridiculous and hopeless to play against. One thing I have to say is Patches spawned Pirate Warrior. And Pirate Warrior was like the single deck in Hearthstone's history that made me discredit people's ability to get high up on the ladder. I can't begin to tell you how many awful players using the Legend card back I played against in Arena right after Pirate Warrior became a thing. And I don't think that was much of a coincidence. Number 4 on the list is Mind Control Tech. Yes, I did just mention how it's important in Hearthstone to always have a chance in the game that you're in to kind of feel like you're in it, and Mind Control Tech certainly gives you that, but Mind Control Tech, in my mind, is the ultimate anti-win screw you card. You know, Hearthstone's no longer a slow-paced game where you can take your time, maybe play one big thing, maybe like another semi-big thing, and then you can attack slowly, chip away at some health with your Chillwind Yetis, and maybe you'll play a Boulder Fist. No, it's not that anymore, all right? These days in Hearthstone, if you're winning by a little bit, you got to push that tempo, you got to end the game as fast as possible, you got to go wide a lot of the time, and it makes it so you basically cannot really afford to almost ever play around Mind Control Tech. So what happens a lot of the time is Mind Control Tech. And you literally lose games that you have no business losing otherwise. And it's just pure RNG off of a card that is designed to do nothing else. Horrible. Number 3. Shudder Walk. Oh man, top 3, boys. Shudder Walk, that's right. Shudder Walk is really on a different level of awful design. You know, a lot of people in the threads that I saw online when this topic was brought up mentioned Yogg-Saron, but Shudder Walk is very different of a Yogg-Saron. Like, Yogg-Saron does just completely random stuff, and in some metas before it was nerfed, it was on average pretty strong. That's it. You play one Yogg-Saron, and the average effects are usually good enough to where you still have Yogg-Saron in your deck. Sometimes you do 10 damage and heal for 10. Sometimes you spawn a bunch of minions. Sometimes you clear a board you otherwise couldn't clear. The typical stuff. Well, with Shudder Walk, there is no RNG really. There's this slight element of RNG of, do you get to go infinite sometimes based on the order of the cards that Shudder Walk decides to spew out in terms of battle cries. There's some RNG sometimes, but in general it's like Yogg-Saron with no RNG whatsoever, no real counterplay ever, and the main way that you'd actually beat Shudder Walk decks is like milling them or something. I don't know, it's just stupid. It was a lot of fun to play Shudder Walk, I think, but I can understand just how destructive it is for the game. I don't know why people didn't complain so much about Shudder Walk when there was an insane amount of complaints for Yogg-Saron. I guess people kind of lost faith in the competitive side of Hearthstone from Yogg-Saron to the point where Shudder Walk came out. People didn't really care that much about that to really be as vocal about it. And yeah, on the other end, the cherry on top with Shudder Walk is it just takes forever to lose. And it's not really fun because with Yogg, you get random spells. The fact that each one takes its actual amount of time to play out is ooh, what's going to be the next spell? What's going to be the next spell? With Shudder Walk, it's literally, what's going to happen. It's the same thing. You just have to sit there and take it for 5 minutes or what used to be 20 minutes sometimes, right? It's mind-blowing. Number 2 is Jade Idol. Yeah, and I think if I didn't really review the worst design cards ever, I'd probably just off the top of my head say Jade Idol. Jade Idol completely killed a single archetype that I really enjoyed above all others in Hearthstone, and that was fatigue decks. It was decks that, you just had to have them fast enough to not lose against aggro, and just slightly slower than control decks, so when it goes to fatigue, you win. So you can't play card draw. It was decks like Grinder Mage. It was, decks like, some of the control priests with 0 card draw. Some really cool decks that really took a lot of skill to play, because it wasn't just the turn that you were playing. Every single turn where you made an action, you were considering what would happen 20 turns later when both you and your opponent would have no cards left in each of the decks. So, that type of gameplay was really inspiring. I even played the original mill/fatigue druid, where it didn't really mill your opponent, it just kind of outlasted everything, and it was such a gift to play that deck. And literally overnight, Jade Idol comes into the game, and it's well, with Jade Idol, it's not just that you never ever run out of cards, you can play as much card draw as you want, because the sooner you run out of cards, the better Jade Idol is. And it's not like you get a consistent game plan when you run out of cards. Your plays every turn are actually stronger and stronger and stronger. You bigger guy and a bigger guy and a bigger guy. This card is just absolute bullshit. I couldn't believe this card actually came out in this current form, and I don't know how he survived to the point where it's no longer in standard play, but good riddance, dude. Holy shit. Please, Blizzard, never again. So you might be wondering, what card is actually worse designed than Jade Idol? I mean, Jade Idol really is the ultimate. Well, I want to remind you guys about Warsong Commander. And yes, you see Warsong Commander, it's a 3-cost 2/3, your charge minions have +1 attack, and you're probably thinking, well, yeah, that card sucks, I've seen that card, I've seen some people maybe mention a few things about it, but Krip, you mentioned at the start of this video, you didn't really want to just include cards that were bad, because there's a lot of cards that are bad. Well, let me tell you a few things. Warsong Commander, the one you see right there, is not just bad, it is horrendous. But to get to the point where I can give you the details of that, I think we should start from the beginning and take a look at the full evolution of Warsong Commander. So as you can see here in I don't know if it was closed or fairly open beta, I think it was closed beta, Warsong Commander was a 3-cost 2/2 with your other minions have charge. All of them. It wasn't restricted based on their attack. Apparently, this card was weak. In a state of the game where we had like some of the lowest power levels ever, because there were no expansions, it seemed like to someone that this card was not quite good enough. So it was buffed to a 3-mana 2/3 with your other minions have charge. And let me tell you the way that people were using it at this point. They were using it with Molten Giant and Pandas. So what they were doing is they would play Control Warrior. They'd just stall out the game, which would be pretty easy because you're playing Control Warrior. You'd get yourself down to a certain life total where Molten Giant would cost close to or actually 0 mana. And you could often do this by swinging your weapons inefficiently into large minions. So you'd actually want to lose in order to have your Molten Giants cost 0, and then you played Warsong Commander, Molten Giant, hit him in the face for 8, play Panda, Panda goes face, replay Molten Giant goes face again, other Molten Giant, other Panda. Some people ran 2 sets of Pandas, and it was just an unbelievable amount of damage just based on this card. So after a while, and it wasn't a short while, Warsong Commander was rightfully nerfed. It maintained its stats. It was a 3-cost 2/3. Whenever you summon a minion with 3 attack or less, then give it charge. So you might think, well, that seems reasonable because now you can't use it with Molten Giants. Well, let me remind you about a certain card that has always been paired in the same set as Warsong Commander. Frothing Berserker. So who would have thought that basically everyone that was playing Molten Giant Control Warrior would then play Frothing Berserker with Warsong Commander, which was like almost as good / slightly better. I think around the time we got the first expansion with Deathspite, it basically was better. It was more consistent because Deathspite Constant Whirlwinds gave you that massive push with Frothing Berserker. So, we had a card that was mind-blowingly overpowered. They buffed the stats of it and kept the part that was mind-blowingly overpowered, realized it was a bit too much, nerfed it, but then the nerf really didn't matter at all. And then once Grim Patron came out and just people started complaining about the fact that, Grim Patron plus Frothing is really totally absolutely insane, then we got the current version that you saw, the 3 mana 2/3, your charged minions have +1 attack. This was also during a time where there was a healthy amount of new players playing the game, and there was a healthy amount of new players playing the base cards and the base decks of those classes. And I have to tell you that Warrior before this nerf was the single worst base class in all of Hearthstone, and instead of Blizzard taking advantage of the situation and changing Warsong Commander to like a card that doesn't completely suck, like they could have made today's Warsong Commander into a 3 mana 3/4, and then it would actually be really good for the base Warrior. But no, for some reason that didn't happen. It was even during an era where I made a video about possibly, maybe Blizzard, if you can buff some of the bad cards, and basically the answer is no. So, yes, we have that version of Warsong Commander, and this version of Warsong Commander still makes base Warrior, if not the worst, one of the worst, extremely low power level cards that have like almost nothing going for them. And this card these days is actually worse than Raid Leader. So, given all of that, perhaps you are convinced that Warsong Commander truly is the shittiest of the shitters. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.